My name is Kathryn Pisco. I'm the co-founder of the social impact organization, Unearth the World. It was founded a couple years ago by my husband and I after we had a transformative experience of traveling around the world. Like crazy people, we quit our jobs on the same day back in 2012 and decided we wanted to take a year to travel and really engage or unearth the world around us, really getting to know local communities along the way. So we visited 20 countries in 250 days, and it was an unbelievable experience. But the highlight was by far the 5 different international volunteer projects that we engaged in along the journey. The experience showed us how you can become a better leader and just a better person through giving your time abroad, but it also showed us some of the negative things about volunteer travel that surprised us, kind of a lack of financial transparency. There's not much training for volunteers before they go abroad. And worst off, many of the projects that you can do abroad are more for tourists as opposed to actually helping and impacting the local community. So we were so simultaneously inspired by how great this experience was, but also how many challenges there were, and it inspired us to start our own organization that we called Unearth the World. Since that time, returning home in 2013, we've worked with over 200 volunteers, with individuals, with families, with local socially minded companies, as well as university students, to engage with communities abroad, volunteer their time. To date, over 3,500 hours of volunteering has been done. And we also find it really important to connect people with their local communities when they return home. And we've started planning local volunteer opportunities so that people can not just have a great experience while volunteering abroad, but become more civically engaged at home. So how do I overcome fears that I've had with starting my own entrepreneurial journey or my own company? I think the biggest fear that I had is that I just never pictured myself as starting my own business. I was, kind of raised and just had found success in my life pre-Unearth the World through kind of following the traditional path, graduating from high school and going to college, graduating from college and getting a job, marrying my college sweetheart and buying a house. It was all these very comfortable steps in life. And so it felt very outside my comfort zone to resign from my more comfortable corporate job, travel the world, and then subsequently start my own business. So my biggest fear was that by not kind of following the traditional path, it would end up in failure. I think everyone probably is worried when they start their own company that it's going to fail. And how we've overcome that, or how I've really overcome that, is a couple ways. First of all, I'm still afraid. I think that's one thing. Everyone is always, I think there's always a healthy bit of kind of fear and nerves as you're going out and embarking on something that is such a personal journey. But I think it's really helped to find a network of people that support not only Unearth the World and our mission, but also me personally. So I created an advisory board that constantly kind of helps be a sounding board for me. I can articulate these kind of nerves and fears and really seek advice from not only friends, but people that are experts in things that I'm not. I think also, something else that's helped me kind of overcome fears is to make time for myself, to have outlets to, so for me, it's exercising. I, grew up playing sports my whole life, played volleyball in college, and found that when I started kind of coming into the work world and was a professional, I didn't make time for that, and it was something that really helps me kind of just burn off steam, and I always end up feeling good. So it's something that I actually schedule into my life every day now. And so it's little things. It's still something that I think, I really want to overcome these fears, completely one day. But I think just by taking it one day at a time, reaching out to a network that supports you and doing something that kind of personally makes me feel good has helped. So what are my top 3 pieces of advice for overcoming kind of imposter syndrome or feeling like I don't belong in the role that I am now? And I will first definitely say that I certainly feel like imposter syndrome is real. I definitely feel that way. Just from even starting Unearth the World, I came from working in jobs where I was very qualified from an education perspective, from an experience perspective. And then I decided to start my own business after traveling a year, and I didn't have the education specifically in social enterprise or social impact work, nonprofit work, or a lot of the entrepreneurial skill sets. And so I felt like I almost didn't belong in this space, and it made me really nervous. It's been a journey, I think, to try to overcome those feelings, and it's still a very real feeling, I think. But I've done a couple things. One, I think going back to the advisory board, because I found that it's really challenging as an entrepreneur to not get regular feedback. So I'm someone that kind of grew up and have always thrived off of those, grades in school kind of showed me I was doing a good job, or reviews at my corporate job, you can kind of check in. Well, you start your own business and you don't have that, and so I think you're can constantly feel victim to, am I still doing a good job? I don't feel like I am. I don't feel like I belong. And so through my advisory board, we have regular check-ins where they can help me to be more self-aware and realize what I'm doing well and what I can improve upon. I think also, this is something that I've just started doing over the last year, is, one of the goals of Unearth the World is that we want to become a thought leader in the space of impact travel, but it's going and surrounding myself with other thought leaders at conferences, at networking events, and it's, the goal was to kind of learn from what other people are doing, and it's also really helped me to feel like I'm not an imposter, because I can go, head to head with people, some of the other leaders in the space, and talk about impact travel, volunteer travel. And so it's kind of, it was by accident, but I would stress that to other people to seek out where you can be surrounded by other people in your field and learn from them, but then also it will, I think, show you that you're not an imposter. You do belong at the table. So those are, I think, the two biggest things. And then just personally trying to become more self-reflective and meditate. And also I've always been my own harshest critic. So not to be trite, but my mom gave me the advice years and years ago that I should treat myself like I treat a friend, as opposed to being so hard on myself. So it's not always easy to do that, but I do try to take a step back and say, what would I tell a friend that was going through this, or feeling like they didn't kind of belong, or feeling isolated? And oftentimes the advice I would give a friend is much kinder than what I had been telling myself. So at the very end of the day, that's helped me a lot too. So what sort of fears or challenges have I faced as I've been trying to make my own mark on the world, and how have I overcome them? I think this is really interesting because I do have a strong desire to make a positive impact on the world. I think that's the reason that I initially quit my job to travel the world. I never thought that it would lead to starting a business, but it's the exact reason I think that then I took what I learned from my travels and turned it into a social impact business. So my goal from day one was to make a positive impact on one person. But I think that it's really challenging to stay true to kind of these baby step goals along the way. I've found that sometimes my own ego or ambitions get in the way, where it's like, oh, I want to totally change the world, or I want to work with hundreds of people, thousands of people, be the market leader. You see other startups that grow much quicker or are making tons of money. And so I think what's been challenging for me is I want to make this kind of small organic mark on the world that hopefully will continue to grow, but also knowing that I have to do it in a way that feels really right and ethical and authentic to not only me personally, but Unearth the World. I was really faced with a challenge about a year and a half into the founding of our business. I had a great personal success of giving birth to twins, but from a professional success, professional standpoint, I had this huge challenge ahead of me. How do I keep a small startup that's really closely identified with me going while also starting a family? And I think that while it wasn't easy, it taught me, if anything, that your mark on the world can evolve, and in some moments it's directly related to your business. In some moments it's related to something personal. During that time frame when I was home on maternity leave, yes, I was worrying about certain things business related, but I had made some preparations and plans for that. But my mark on the world in that time was, raising and taking care of my 2 daughters. So how do I deal with knowing and the realization that you can't necessarily do it all, that sometimes one of the balls in the air starts to fall? For me, this has been a huge challenge. I've always been a perfectionist and been fortunate enough that most of the time in life, if I want to accomplish something, I'll just try to run faster, jump higher, study harder, whatever the case may be. And when you're running a business and being a new mother and trying to still be a good daughter and wife and friend, also take time for myself, it's really challenging to know that you're doing all the things to the best of your ability. It was a lot of pressure I started putting on myself trying to do it all and realizing that I just would run myself into the ground doing that. What first started helping me was talking to other people. So I would talk to other working moms or talk to other small business owners about kind of my fears and frustrations and challenges around this. And what I learned is that pretty much everyone's putting their life together with duct tape and bubble gum, and that no one has it all and no one's doing that, even if they're projecting that to the world. And that knowledge, as simple as it sounds, has really helped me. It's also really helped me. Someone said, why is it such a challenge for you to not feel like you're doing it all? And I said, because it feels like a failure. And they asked me to think about times I had failed, but that I still survived and things still went well. And it was a total mind shift for me that, good things still come out of those moments. And I think the biggest thing is continuing to being kind of an extrovert and someone that does thrive off of my relationships with other people, also talking about it with them. So, I was really struggling as trying to, be a good wife, whatever that means, to my husband, who's super supportive when I was trying to balance other things. But by verbalizing it to him and saying, I don't feel like I'm as maybe engaged or attentive or whatever as I should be doing. Once I kind of said those words, one, it kind of seemed silly, but he also put me at ease that you're doing an amazing job, do not feel that way. And so, or at certain times I'm not as in close touch with some of my friends that I wish I was. By verbalizing that to them, it's just acknowledging that I have 80 balls up in the air right now and some of them are kind of falling. It doesn't diminish how much I appreciate and acknowledge you and our friendship, but that's really helped me, and also having them know that they're still a priority. So I think it'll always be a constant struggle for me, but that's how I've tried to approach it right now.